last 80 years have been a unique moment of history. In fact, the world has never quite seen anything like it before. Nothing that's even been close. Since World War II, the population of the planet has tripled. That's never happened before. Around the same time, the gross economic output of the world has increased by over 14 times, which literally means more than quadrupled per person. Meanwhile, we decry in ever louder terms how bad everything is. It's getting worse and worse and worse. If things were half as bad as they are in our imagination, the world would not have tripled at all. In 1969, a book called The Population Bomb by Paul Ehrlich came out and predicted that when the world reached 2 billion people, there would be mass starvation and life on earth as we know it would end. We're now a little bit north of 7 billion people, and there's actually less hunger now than any point now in human history. A book that's still widely quoted, though has been as spectacularly wrong as is humanly possible. We are lucky to live in the most prosperous time and place in the history of the world. Yet we live in a time of anxiety and stress and the feeling that things are not quite right. My question is, if things are so materially good, and by any objective measure they are materially good, then why are we so stressed? Could it be that money and material things is not all that they're cracked up to be? And maybe not as important as we think. I want to read out of Matthew chapter 6. It is a passage that you are well aware of. It goes like this: do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust consumes and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can serve two masters. For a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Though the lineup to do that is very long. And there's plenty of volunteers. Let me just give you some statistics about money today. And some of these will strike us as odd, but I cross-referenced them in a lot of different places. The average household savings in America, the average, is $17,135. The median balance of all retirement accounts is $65,000. That means there's as many below that as there is above that. That's the average. That's the median, not the average. 38% of Americans say they can't save any money because their expenses are too high. The median bank account balance in the United States today, the median, again, not the average, the median, is $5,300. The average amount owed by households, it's a household, that have credit card debt is $6,849. Let me say those two back to back. The average median account balance in a bank in the country is $5,300, but the average amount owed by households with credit card debt is $6,849. That is what you call underwater, upside down. That averages out to $3,824 of credit card debt per person. And if you make the minimum payment on that $3,824, probably after 19 years, it'll cost you something like $10,000 or $11,000. I haven't done the math on that. That's the money statistic. for things as good as they are, we find ourselves awfully upside down, stressed out, and in a bad situation because of money. That's probably not a good situation to be in. One of our children, I won't even need to guess which one it is. They were small, we would go to, let's say, the mall. Remember what malls were? Malls were these places where there used to be all these businesses and you could go inside. Some of you remember them. And we would go there and maybe go into Penny's. Remember Penny's? Penny's was a store where you could buy, And there used to be, like, let's say, pants. And they would be on those circular racks. One of our children would love to just kind of climb inside the circular racks just to hide. And every time they did so, and I'm not telling you which one, you'll know, would come out with a $10 or $20 bill that they found. I would love to be that lucky. Here's just some basic things for everybody. And I'm going to get a little more specific at the beginning part. I think it's a good idea. You've heard this before. One of the best things we can do throughout life is, like the plague, avoid debt. I'm not talking about your mortgage, because the value of your house is greater than the mortgage. That's different. Avoid unnecessary debt at all costs. There was a time in our lives we would go back in 95 and 96 and 97, and I was in grad school, and I was working, and we had 2 kids, and we did that whole thing. We had the envelope for rent, we had the envelope for groceries, we had the envelope for utilities, and that's what it was for the month. And if the food envelope was done, there was a lot of peanut butter and jelly for that last part of the week. The best thing to do is spend only what you have cash for this very moment. Don't penalize, don't crimp, don't hurt your future by spending habits right now. A couple of months ago, I was invited to give a little seminar, which I did, and I looked at the people there, and I challenged them. And I'll start with the bigger total, but you can do the math yourself. I challenged them. I said, especially if you're young in life, if you're just, you're in your 20s and you're just done with college and all that kind of thing, here's my challenge to you. And it's a challenge actually if you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s as well. Here it is. Try to find $2,000 a year. We can say $1,000. Find $2,000 a year. At the end of that year, invest it. And the next year, $2,000, and the next year, $2,000, and the next year, $2,000. And do that for 30 years. And I'm not talking about if things go great. If things go below average for that 30 years, after you invest it. At the end of 30 years, $2,000 times 30, that's $60,000. Well, if you do that at the end of 30 years, that your investment will be worth $250,000. $250,000. If it's just $1,000, it's worth $125,000. And I would tell that if you graduated from college, go, well, I'll do that once I pay off my loans. I would challenge you not to do that and find $1,000 of that to invest while you're paying off your loans, because you'll get a bigger return than the interest rate that you're paying off. How can I find $1,000? You act like it's easy. No, I act like it's simple. I don't act like it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Let me just challenge you. Just think, for a month, write down everything, every dime that you spend money on. And at the end of the month, look at it. And just see what could go away. I bet there's a few things that can go away. I bet there's a few, maybe stop and buy something, at a drink or something, or a couple times of lunch out a week. I really enjoy that. I understand that. I'm just showing you where you can find it. I bet some others of you have a talent or skill that other people like. You knit and you can make a scarf. You do a craft that other people love. We have so many ways now to market that, and people will be happy to, if you do one of your crafts or things, they'll be happy to pay you for it. You like to bake and people love your cupcakes. I bet you could sell them. The principle is do everything you can to invest now so you can have freedom later. We tend to not make the sacrifices short term, and so we never gain the long-term benefit later. It's hard. It's hard to keep your financial discipline. It's hard to give up a few things. It's hard to stay faithful with that. It's also very hard to live check to check. It's hard to live with debt hanging over you. So I would say choose your hard very carefully, because either way is hard. And that's just some smart things. The bigger question is today is, what I want to ask is, who exactly is in charge here? I think money dominates us in ways that we do not even think about. And we know that so many people think about money all the time. Every decision is financial. You read a magazine where it says, Forbes or Money magazine will come out, top paying jobs in 2021 or 2022, and someone will go, oh, well, that's the job I'm going to have, without ever asking the question, is that something that I'm even going to be able to do or live even remotely happy while I'm doing it? Because everything becomes a financial decision. We can also start to desire a thing so much, we do whatever we can for that product. But money is the thing that gets us there. I bet there's somebody somewhere that's already saving for iPhone 15. Are we on 13 right now? I'm an Android person. I'm not cool at all. But they're already saving because they want to be the first in line for 15. They want to be first in line for this thing or that thing. So we make decisions based solely on money. What job we take, what house we buy. Our minute-by-minute decisions are so often driven by money. This passage in Matthew asks us a very simple question. What do you value most in life? 6:21, we read the words, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think that's the larger question this morning, is where's your heart? What do you spend all your time thinking about? What do you spend all your time worrying about? What is the thing you value or pursue more than anything else? There is actually a poisonous idea that's going around in culture, and it's going around a little more right now than it was, let's say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And it's this. You ready? Rich people love money. Rich people are greedy. Not like me, who struggles week to week to pay off whatever bill I have. Can I tell you something? I might not know a lot of things, but I know that idea is completely and totally wrong. Oh, sure, I'm sure there are rich people who love money, but probably at about the exact same rate as across every other economic strata. In fact, some of the people that seem to me to love money the most are people that don't have a lot of it, or who see it fly away very quickly. In life, I know a handful, a number of very wealthy people. If you met them, you wouldn't know it. But let me tell you something. The people I'm thinking about right now, they don't love money at all. It happens to be a byproduct of something else. An interest they had, a company they built, something they invented, all those kind of things that ended up, but you would never know. There's this line that Matthew tells us that I think is exactly right. It says, no one can serve two masters. And I think this is completely true. So what will you serve? Will you serve money or will you serve God? A lot of times our choice is we want to serve money. We want to serve the economic interest. Oh, we'll leave a little room for God, but we pursue money. I didn't just fall off a turnip truck. I don't know what it is about turnip trucks, but that's how I always heard it growing up. I know we need money to live. I know we need it to exist. I know we need it to pay the bills. I know we need to have a warm house or a cool house in the summer. I know we need it for food and clothing and all those things. There are legitimate concerns. There's college education. There's retirement funds. There's bills to pay. There are needs that we have. All those things are real. And I'm not talking about not being aware of the needs around us. But I'm asking about, what is it that you love? And what is it that you want to serve more than anything else? Another place in Matthew, we see these words: seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you as well. I know it's hard to find the money to buy the latest trend, and there's one reason for that, is because as soon as you spend the money on the latest trend, there's a new latest trend. Some of us are old enough, we go back to Cabbage Patch Kids. We go back to Sedgefield jeans. We go back to Gloria Vanderbilt. We go back to all kind of things through the years. Parachute pants. The beautiful trend that was the members only jacket. If you're below a certain age, you got to look some of this stuff up. That everybody had to have. And then there's another one coming around the corner. So it's always hard to find the money to buy the latest trend. It's hard to put God first. Choose your heart. Has great implications for the future. There's a principle here, and the principle is of service. The simple question is, what will be first in my life? And by the way, something has to be first. Our daily decisions often reflect the master of our lives. If God really is first, then all decisions flow from that very simple realization. Do I need this thing? God, what would you have me do with this decision? It's funny, that's often not the first place we go. And maybe it should be the first place we go. Now let me say, you've heard me say something else too in the past. I often know Christians, comes time to buy a house, and they spend a lot of time praying, God, do you want the house on Maple Street or Oak Street? And I'm not going to buy anything until I get a clear bat signal from heaven on Maple Street or Oak Street. Can I tell you something? I kind of think you can serve God from either house. You can serve God if you buy a Chevy, or you can serve God if you buy a Honda. Just not if you buy a Ford. Sorry. That's my Grandpa Ward talking again. That's my Grandpa Ward. That was his thing, not mine. I must have been channeling him there. That's kind of not what I'm talking about. God, I've been blessed with this. God, I have this. What would you have me do with my life? What would you have me do with my resources? What would you have me do with the things that I've been blessed with? Because it is not first in my life. You are. So the larger decision is, what is my highest priority? Is it money? Is it wealth? Or is it God? I look around, and here's where most people are, even a lot of the good people I know. Very lucky to know a lot of good people. We want God to have this nice part of our lives, this nice slice. I have my work slice, my family slice, my hobby slice, my economic slice, and then I have my God slice. I don't want God spilling over into the other areas of life. God has His nice little part. I'm a good person. The trouble is, we have this command in Scripture that says this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your mind, in all your strength. And I read it before. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you as well. Oh, we need to be aware of financial decisions. We need to be aware. You can get yourself in trouble. I was a junior in college. I had taken advantage somewhere in my sophomore year of one of those things. You go into Penny's, and it was Penny's, and where you bought something, and then they say, oh, by the way, would you like to open up a J.C. Penney credit card, and you can get 10% off your purchases? And that was the point I went, 10% off? Yes, I would like 10% off. And I got my J.C. Penney credit card. So now it's my junior year, and it came Christmas, and I wanted to buy my fiance at the time something nice. I can't remember what it was. She probably took it back anyway. And a gift, and I put it on Penny's credit card. And while I was there at the store, I'd like socks. I remember socks was something, and there was something else. I got like 6 or 7 things the same day, paid them all with the Penny's credit card. Well, in like February, I was supposed to go and live in Pekin, Illinois for 3 months as part of field training for those in pastoral ministry. And I went off, and there in early February, the Penny's bill came, and I paid it all off in full. There you go. And I even changed. I gave them the change of address form and sent it in, but March didn't come, and April didn't come, and May didn't come, and now here it comes middle of May. I was moving back home anyway, and so now it's early June. I went back home to Ohio. No, I wouldn't. I went back to Chicago that year. So I went to the store to buy something else. I went to Penny's, and I went there, and they said declined. Declined? I said, why is it declined? Failure to pay a bill. And I went, that's not right. That can't be. Well, I don't know what happened, but that day, I literally bought 6 or 7 things, all in the exact same day. 5 of the 6 things were put on the bill that I paid, and the socks were $8. Didn't get put on that. For some reason, even though all purchased the same day, I didn't get it until the March bill, which never got to me because I don't know what happened with the change of address form. And so by the time it caught up to me, which it hadn't yet, my card was declined because of $8 socks. Still sticks in my craw a little bit. Not that I'm bitter, which is what I told the person at Penny's when I went and paid the $8 and then pulled scissors out of my pocket and cut the card up in front of him. That probably I didn't need to do that, but I did. So financial decisions are part of life. But the bottom line personally cannot be the bottom line financially. The bottom line financially cannot be what drives my thought process, cannot be what drives my heart. It's really hard to go against the flow of culture. It's hard to live in this prosperous time and place. This is not anything official, but there's something eating at me, and I'm not sure that there's not some not very good financial time that's coming down the pike right now. I'm not saying anything in the next 3 months or 6 months. I'm not saying anything like that. And it's hard to swim upstream when everything seems to be so economic. It's hard to not to feel like you're not. It's hard to feel like I'm the only one on earth that doesn't have. Remember having teenagers? I'm the only one that doesn't have. You're not the only one. Or sometimes I'm the only one that doesn't have this. Yeah, life stinks for you. You're unlucky to be in my house, so you're not going to get it. Get used to it. Move on. It's hard to live where you're seeking more and more and more. And the thing with more is once you get the thing, the more doesn't go away. It's just filled by something else. I've been at funerals of a couple people who were very wealthy. but who died kind of separated from their family. And there'd be 4 or 5 people at the funeral home, at the service. I've also been at a funeral of someone who never had any money, and it was a funeral that was filled with 800 people. Because I don't think money is the dividing line of life. I don't think bank account is the dividing line between successful and not successful. And I know we live in a culture that wants to drive that point home, but I just don't think it's true at all. And it's hard to swim against the flow of culture. It's hard to swim upstream. It's hard also to seek more and more and more all the time. Choose your heart. Choose your heart. So here's what I know. Here's what I know about the next year. The next year will be difficult. Some of you just in the last 3 months. You've got your gas bill, haven't you? Boy, that looks different than it did last year. A whole lot different. There's going to be all kinds of things that surprise us. There's going to be financial decisions that we see and we don't see. There's going to be all kinds of choices to make. The choice is going to be, do we do the easy thing? Do we pursue what everybody else pursues? Or do we maybe start to ask ourselves questions? What's needed? What's necessary? What would God have me do in this situation? How could I use my resources? I don't know which way, but I do know that both ways will be often difficult. And maybe with prayer and thinking through and leaving our complete lives open to God, we'll choose the hard. But it's the hard that'll yield the most results down the line.